Autumn invites us to gather colors, textures, and stories and craft them into something uniquely ours. And this is the inspiration for Sonnet's Garden Blooms September's Maker's Box. Hi, my name is Sylvia from Backyard Brushes in Fountain City, Wisconsin. And in today's video, I am flipping 3 items inspired by Sonnet's Garden Blooms September's. In this month's box, we have Pumpkin and Fall Views and also Moody Night by Connie the Painted Photographer. From Roycycle Decoupage, we have Autumn Hearth Plaid and also Whispers of Fall. For DIY paint, we have Mermaid Tail and Electrified. For Fusion Mineral Paint, we have Renfrew Blue and Mustard. And Sweet Pickins Milk Paint comes the color Curry. Don't forget, there's always a beautiful napkin included along with Sonnet's thank you card. So let's roll up our sleeves and let's get creating. For project 1, I had found this large metal pet dish or watering dish, and I thought it would be perfect for a treat bowl for handing out trick-or-treat candy this Halloween. So I started by covering it with white chalk paint by Rust-Oleum White Linen, and then I covered it with, I believe it's Birch by Fusion Alchemy. Then I mixed the Electrified and the mustard, and I just kind of played on the bottom of it to kind of get autumn blended effect. So once I kind of got the hang of that, and I just kind of kept making little X's, I guess, and slashes, blending the 3 colors. I then painted the sides also, and I covered the whole outside portion of the bowl in this fall looking pattern, and I just kept making slashes blending the colors. Once it was done, I used the mermaid tail and I went around the whole edge of the pail. And then I cut out the pumpkin from Connie's rice paper for the pumpkins and fall views. And I used the wet method and just kind of ripped around the edge of the pumpkin. Using DIY liquid patina, I was able to decoupage the pumpkin right onto the side of the now it's a bowl. And I sealed it also with the DIY liquid patina. Using my IOD, I think it's Farmhouse. And I also use, I think it's called China Blue ink by IOD. And I juiced up the stamp and I just stamped on the trick or treat, making my way around the bowl, and it is round, so it was a little bit more difficult. So I chose to do each word separately. So I just laid down the letters, pressed down with my fingers, and then pulled up the stamps. And again, I just made my way slowly around the bowl. Once the letters were dry, I sealed the whole bowl using DIY Big Top. For project 3, I used a metal, I think it's a flower container, I'm not even positive, that I had also picked up at our local thrift store. I mixed up the curry milk paint using a 1-to-1 ratio. I then stirred it and I let it sit for at least 20 minutes so the pigments and the water could absorb. I do try to stir to get the majority of the lumps out, but I do know it's okay if it's still got some small lumps. I covered the bin with Fusion's Alchemies in the color Birch, just to kind of give it a base, and I did spray it with Rust-Oleum ahead of time so the paint would have something to adhere to. After that, I printed off the mushrooms from the digital press that's also included with the box. A new feature this year that I am in love with. And if I mess it up, that's okay. I can print out more papers. And I use a mulberry rice paper for printing out the images, and I can leave that link in the description box below. And I just covered the whole bin in the mustard from Fusion's milk paint, and I do know it always takes me 2 coats when using Fusion. However, I did leave a little area with the white. In using DIY liquid patina, I decoupaged the sheet on top of the white area of the metal bin. And once I was able to just use my fingers and press that on, I did give it a top coat of the liquid patina. And I also gave the whole bucket or pail basket also a coat of the liquid patina. Since I knew I wanted to use a dark wax, the paint does need to be sealed before applying a wax. I stifled on DIY dark wax, and I went around in sections, and I would stifle on the wax, and then I would use a paper towel to wipe the excess wax off. I did use the brush at the end to kind of go over the rice paper, and I just kind of wiped that off just to kind of dinge that up also. For the third project, I had picked up a bunch of these wooden signs for free. So I used the electric sander to sand down the sign, and then I covered the surface with white chalk paint by Rust-Oleum. I used painter's tape to mark off the edges because I'm kind of a sloppy painter. Using the Fusion paint in I'm not sure if I can say this correctly, the Renfrew blue, I went around the edges, and I also made sure to paint the back of the sign. Fusion is great because you don't have to seal it. However, I always put some Vaseline along the edges of my Fusion paints to protect them from not being able to open them the next time. I removed the painter's tape, and I cut out a piece of the plaid decoupage paper. And using liquid patina by DIY, I just applied that decoupage paper right onto above the white area of the sign. And I have white in the background, as it kind of helps make that decoupage paper pop out and a little bit brighter than if I had not used brighter paint underneath it. And I just kept going in sections. And I also did mist my decoupage paper prior to using it, as it helps loosen up those fibers and minimize the risk of wrinkles. I just didn't get it on film, so I apologize. And I used also the edge of the paper along with the edge of the board to try and keep my plaid straight going across the sign. Using my finger sander, I just kind of go up and down gently over the edges, and I'm able to rip off the excess decoupage paper. Using liquid patina by DIY, I make my way across and give that plaid decoupage paper an extra coat. I chose to use the pumpkins for the napkins for my sign, and I cut out a square. Using liquid patina on my fingers, I'm able to press down on the corner and peel that single layer of the napkin off. Using the wet brush method, I just make my way right around the edges of that pumpkin. Using DIY liquid patina, I go right on top of the other decoupage paper, the first layer, and I just make a square of patina, and I'm able to place the napkin right on top, layering my napkin on top of the decoupage paper beneath it. I use my fingers to spread it out, and I do feel that it has some wrinkles. I seal it with liquid patina, and when that's dry, I place some parchment paper right over the napkin, and then I use my little mini heat press to go over the napkin, and I just iron out the wrinkles. And again, don't tell my husband I do know how to iron. And I just peel that off, and it did a great job getting rid of the wrinkles. Using my finger sander, I just go along the edges, and I'm able to peel off the excess napkin. Using a stencil I got from Amazon, which I can link in the description below, and some painter's tape, I use a sponge brush and the Rough New Fusion Blue, and I just stencil on an arrow on the bottom of the sign. It's not perfect, but I am more than okay with that. I grab the IOD farmhouse letters, and I form the word, umpkins, because I only have one P. I juiced it up using a sepia ink, and I just press right straight down onto the sign. I lift up, and I just grab that P. I juice the P up, and I place it right in front, press down, lift up, and I have formed the word pumpkins for my sign. I chose to seal the top of the sign with the Golden Matte, or a matte sealer by Golden, which I can link in the description box below. It's thicker, and I thought it would give the papers a little bit more protection if it was outside. Then I went around the edges with a Fusion Brown Antiquing Glaze, and then I just wiped those edges right off. It just kind of gave it a little more worn look. I would love for you to comment below and let me know which one of these projects is your favorite, or if you have any other ideas or suggestions. And if you're not already getting Sonnet's Maker's Box, I can leave a link below so that you can avoid the wait list and go straight to the top and start receiving your box right away. If you found this video inspirational, please hit subscribe below and follow me along on my creative journey. Thank you.